Alright, today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful cured salmon at home. It's very simple to do, few ingredients, and it's delicious. Let's go.
Hi, you're hanging with the PA.
When you think of cured salmon, you think of Gravlax or just lox, and it can be done in a variety of ways. In this video, we're going to make it homemade, and we're going to make it the easy way with just a few ingredients. So here we have our fresh salmon, and what I'm going to cure is just the tail end of this because the other half I'm going to use for dinner. So here's the tail end, and I'm going to start curing that. And in order to cure this, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to need salt. Here I'm using some sea salt. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on a plate, and I want to make sure that I put a lot of salt on this salmon, on both sides, on the skin and on the flesh side. And you notice that I have the skin. Leave the skin on there because it's going to make it easier for us to slice the salmon once it's cured. And I think leaving the skin on there doesn't over dry the salmon, so it's important that you leave the skin on there. As far as the ratio of sugar and salt, I'm not really following anything, so it's up to you, because what's going to cure this salmon is the salt and the sugar together. So if you want your salmon a little bit more sweet, you can put more sugar. If you want a little bit more salty, you can put more salt. I'm probably using a 50-50 ratio, but it's up to you. The next thing you want to think about is what herbs to use. Here I'm using dry herbs, but you can use fresh herbs like I have here, and I've used both dry and fresh herbs, and I kind of prefer the fresh herbs that you see here a little bit better as opposed to the dry herbs that I'm using here. In this particular case, I'm using dry thyme and marjoram, but you can use any herbs that you want. Traditionally, dill is often used, so if you have dry dill or fresh dill, I recommend that you use that. I've done it with dill, and rosemary, which is another herb that really complements the salmon as well. So dill and rosemary, if you have it, go with that. Again, if you have fresh herbs, go with that. Here you can see that I'm using the dry herbs, and basically this consists of the salt, the sugar, and the herbs, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it up with some plastic wrap, as you can see here, and it's going to go into the fridge. Now this is when the curing starts to happen. A lot of people like to try different crazy fancy things, but you don't have to. You will also notice that the salmon at this point has changed in color, and it will continue to change in color and get somewhat a deeper color as it gets cured. And you can see here after about a day what's happening here. You can see there's some liquid on the bottom, and this is what's happening with the salt and the sugar. It's pulling that moisture away from the salmon itself, and as it's doing that, those herbs are helping to basically give a little bit of flavor and essence to the salmon. After about 2 to 3 days here, you can see there's a lot more water on the bottom of that plate, and as the sugar and the salt continue to break down that salmon, you will see a lot more moisture, and that's when you know you have to transfer it. So after about 3 to 4 days, you're going to have to take that salmon and basically do the same thing we did in the beginning, okay? Start with the salt bed, lay your salmon on top of there, and then go ahead and hit it with some sugar. The second time around, or the second curing, you don't have to use as much sugar or as much salt, but you still want to make sure that you covered the salmon all the way through with the salt and the sugar. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this from here, and you can see what the salmon and sugar has done to this. It has removed all the moisture, or most of the moisture, and you can see how the salmon is. The salmon is actually very flat right now. It's not limpy, and that skin in the back also helps to keep the salmon together, as you can see. But you can see as it pulls away that moisture, it's slowly curing it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and dry it as much as I can, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on that salt and the new sugar that we put here on this plate. So this is the first transfer here, and I'm just repeating what I previously did, which was the salt, the sugar, and obviously this is a small piece of salmon. If you were to use the whole salmon, you want to use more salt and more sugar, but the whole thing is to cover this up and let that sugar and let that salt work on the salmon to remove the moisture. At this point, you can go ahead and add a little bit more herbs to it if you would like. I'm actually going to add a little bit of black pepper just to give it a little kick. So we're basically going to go ahead and continue to cure this, and we're going to allow that salt and that sugar to draw away the leftover moisture that's in the salmon. So we're going to go ahead and put it back on the fridge, and then we're going to see what happens in about 2 days. So after 2 days, you can see what's happening to the salmon. This is a 5-day total curing at this point. The salmon has changed in color, and there's a caramel color to it. And there is some moisture that was drawn away from the salmon, obviously not as much as the first time, but you can see that the salmon is darker in color, and this is where leaving the skin really helps the curing process. As you can see as I touch it, it's nice and moist here. but it's not full of liquid inside. The liquid has been drawn out, and you can clearly tell by the color of the salmon that it has been cured. So at this point, it looks good. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the excess herbs and all that salt and everything else. And at this point, this has been curing for 5 days. Again, I'm just going to pat it dry, remove all the excess herbs, all the excess salt and sugar. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator for another day or two. And at this point, it really is cured, but I like to go ahead and just cure it a little bit longer without having all that excess salt and sugar and everything else. So this is a second transfer, and as you can see, the leftover here, there's a little bit of moisture, but we've cleaned up the salmon. You can see this beautiful dark color that we have here, and it's nice and clean now. I patted it dry, and I am going to put it in the fridge for about 2 more days. At this point, you can eat it like this, but I like to just go ahead and cure it a little bit longer. Just patting it dry, removing some of that excess moisture, and we're going to put it in the fridge. This is really simple to do. You really can't mess this up. I see some videos doing all kinds of crazy stuff that you don't need to do. It's basically the salt and the sugar that's going to cure the salmon. And as it's cured, there should be no smell to it. It should have a nice brown caramel color like this, and you know that it's fully cured. And at this point, you can go ahead and slice it up and enjoy it, and you have yourself a delicious treat.
Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me high and dry.
Again, this was really easy to do. There's no tricks needed, and you can see the end results and how beautiful this is. And here's the thing about keeping that skin. You can see how it helps you slice the salmon. That skin also helps the salmon from not being too over dry. And as you can see here, it's beautiful. It has a nice glossy color to it. It has a nice essence. It doesn't smell like overly fishy. And you can see how it's moist, not over dried. And that's thanks to having that skin there, which really helps regulate how much moisture is removed from the salmon and how the end result is here. Where it's not over dry and it's not a jerky, because that's not what you want to get. You want to get a nice pliable piece of fish like I have here that's glossy, that you can see all those beautiful fats, and that's basically cured. This is a wonderful recipe to do at home, and you're going to enjoy this on a nice toasted bagel with some cream cheese. It's great in the morning for breakfast and even at night. I hope you have enjoyed this recipe. If you liked it, leave a comment, put a like, subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you on the next one. It's your boy, the P to the A. I'm out.